of the trainee were elected into the child. Some of their achievements are disclosure of the financial transactions of the ground panchayat, repairing pipes that have led to better water facilities, putting up street lights and repairing existing lamps, planting 1,200 saplings. They also fixed the weekly visits of the ground savers to their village.
जब तक कम्युनिटी का इन्वॉल्वमेंट नहीं होगा, लोगों का साथ नहीं होगा, तब तक कुछ पॉसिबल नहीं है। कर्मचारी है वो करना चाहता है, लेकिन उसके बगैर कुछ पॉसिबल नहीं है।
It's no point in creating laws when communities don't understand the importance of it. If only then through dialogue and discussion, communities understand the relevance of these laws for their own lives and their own children. They start inside of them. Then they become norms within the community.
सर्वात महत्त्वाचं काम कोण राहिलं तर लोकांची मानसिकता बदलली आणि हे मानसिकता आज पूर्णपणे चेंज झालेली दिसून येते. ज्या गावात मायक्रोफायनान्स झालेलं गाव आणि न झालेलं गाव जर आपण बघितलं तर खूप मोठा फरक दिसतो.
What we are seeing here is just the beginning. The government of Maharashtra has decided to scale up the process all across the state as a core strategy for development program. This is the evolving story of microplanning.
How much time do we have? It was 1 hour. So 15 minutes. I'll just take you through the set. UNICEF works with government, basically. And on one side, we have the government functionaries and the community. So on one side, we have to work with them, develop their skills and change in attitudes, as well as in the community, the CBOs, whether it's a panchayat, the women's groups, the youth groups, working with them. We need to create an alliance of these. And whoever is there, within the community, there could be NGOs, there could be other institutions who come together and work together. And this alliance, through the different tools that we have created. We have about 22 to 23 tools, which is participatory, which the community does. And through that process, issues come up in the area of nutrition, health, water, sanitation, environment, basically, education. These are the main topics that we touch. And around that, issues are discussed, assessment is done, analysis is done, action. So there are 4 A's. One is the alliance of community and government, and whoever is available, doing this process of planning. And to make this happen, we bring in NGOs or other resource agencies as partners. And in each district, we have a resource agency that is identified, largely NGOs. And our job is to build the capacity of this group. And they are the ones who are working with government and community. So that the process happens and the real empowerment. That's a strategy, programming strategy that we have taken. And microplanning is the process of making this happen, as well as the process. And finally, they will be doing it on their own, because it's a cycle. Every 6 months, they take an assessment and change the plan or look at other activities to be taken. I won't go into it. These were the results that we were looking at. Every child immunized, no child malnutrition, every birth in an institution, it goes on and on. I will just go through it. This is, the first day we do a few activities. The second day, the weighing and everything comes in. As I mentioned to you, it's a huge chart. The small graph is made into 8 by 10 graph. And while the child is weighed, the mother is told to keep the child depending on the weight and age, where the spot is. They won't do. But then there are young children who are studying in school, 8, 9, 10, some in college. They know the graph very fast. They will come in and they'll start helping the mother. And then there is a discussion, why is this child here? And this child here? Where should the child be? It's color coded, green, yellow, red. So red is severely malnourished. And then there is a discussion of why the child is malnourished. So the inputs related to malnutrition could be really good. For example, I mean, simple things. I don't know how many of you are aware. Almost all over India, the first breast milk is given to the child on the 3rd day. Some cases it's the 5th day. And during that time, diluted milk, the first is honey water. These are the things that are given. And we know that 90%, when you do the water testing, 90% of tubers are bacteria. So you end up with 70% of your infant deaths in the first month. Malnutrition, because the child, cumulatively, when the child is 3 years or 5 years old, 6 months the child spends diet. These are simple things which can be kept. If you look at the graph between the 6th and the 14th month, that is when children slip into malnutrition. Because there's no adequate feeding or caring at that stage. When the child starts eating on its own, then it picks up. But then the child is already malnourished. However much you push, you can't take it up. And that's why we are finding 37% in moderate and severe malnutrition. So these are all knowledge gaps within families. How do we create the change about breastfeeding, supplementary feeding, here the weighing is happening. We have various group meetings actually, the youth meetings, adolescent meetings, women's meetings where issues are discussed. Day 3 is the, and this is very important. Visually, when you do the village map there, it's done by themselves. The youth will come forward. Every house is, and then when the weighing is done, which are the houses where the malnourished child is there? They put a green leaf or a red dry leaf marker. So everything, school, children who are not going to school, which are the families, that's identified. Who are the dropouts? Everything can be working, children working. So all these is identified and the community discusses it. This is the village that we are living in. This is our village, our children. How do we handle this? And that's how the action plans come. This map is a live map. It keeps on every evening, new changes come out, depending on the day's work. And one of the activities is building soap pits every house. It's demonstrated there itself that they start doing it. Cleaning up the entire village is part of the activity. Water testing. We have a simple, it's called an H2S strip. In a bottle of water, you collect the water from a tube well, put the strip in, leave it for 24 hours. And next morning when they see it, it's black in color. The water turns black because of bacteria. And then they realize this is the water to treated. And children, you saw the school children participate. They do a simple survey where they go house to house and collect information on what are the diseases that happened in our village this year. How much money we spent. Now in a village in Aurangabad, it's a Banjara community tribal, 780 odd people. They listed 46 diseases, which include an appendicitis operation. And then the total amount they spent is 4,37,000 rupees during that. These are collected by children, may not be accurate, but then it gives a good of their figure, they collected it. So you can talk about it. And then we ask them, where do these diseases come from? 75% comes from water. So where do you drink your water from? Then we do the water testing. Next morning they are all shocked. This is the water, this is the way diseases come. So what do we do? How do we take care of the humans? So all these things come up. And finally, on the last day, the Village Development Action Plan, Village Community Action Plan. This is an action plan where they don't need any external help, which they can do themselves, activities. And then where they need support, they want to build a school room, classroom. They don't have a proper Anganwadi center, or they want a road or a well to be repaired. Then they need government support. So there are two plans, one which they can do, and these are with timelines and activities. And responsibility is fixed to them. I will not go into these. These are all outcomes in terms of process outcomes that we are looking at. Any questions if you're interested? Because we have about 5 minutes more. Yeah.
Sir, before the mechanism where we said work with the government, in between there are NGOs.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask how many NGOs are there? They are really working because as for now, if everything, the planning is good, the government planning is very good, as you said, Manrega and everything, they are all well structured and everything is there, but the implementation part is lacking. All the plans fail because they are not implemented, or because of the corruption, or because of many other factors. The funds which UNICEF gives to India, or it is not utilized. The heads of the NGOs or the village panchayats, or they take it for their own use, and they don't pass it to the main person, like the poor person. So I wanted to suggest that. Can it not be a machinery which directly, without involving any other working like NGOs and any other heads, directly distributes funds to the poor and to their own household? And the person you have identified by village mapping which household.
Yeah, what happens there is the community, the family is not aware on how to spend the money because there is a huge knowledge gap. So it goes into either liquor, other things. There is no control. I just want to come back to you because in terms of time. And when we talk of NGOs, what I personally did was not to go after the big NGOs. There are youth clubs in villages. There are small NGOs who are educated people but do not have the funds or the skills, capacity to deliver. So we identify these groups. I conducted about 10 workshops, training workshops, which are 6 days, on different activities, orienting them on development processes, and out of that selected individuals. And they became the resource pool. They are the NGOs. I'm not talking about the established NGOs. If you find one, yes, but these are all local youth. Like at one point of time, there were 6,000 facilitators in Maharashtra doing this work in 23 districts, and they were all unemployed youth. We created a network, and we created an NGO now, which is called Smart Center for Participatory Learning. And these unemployed youth, our objective is to give them about 12 to 14 days work in a month. And they earn about 10,000 rupees. So today, government itself calls them. They know that they belong to this umbrella. So they directly hire them and they do the processes, whether it's training, whether it's village planning. They are the ones who are leading the process. Yeah.
As concerned about poor people, they don't have knowledge, they don't have education. So they don't know about the value of girl child. But as we can see in news, so many knowledgeable people, doctors, even they are killing girl child. So how will you spread how will you spread awareness to them? Because they are already knowledgeable.
See, that is where the whole concept of working with self-help groups, adolescent groups, panchayats. I mean, if you go to the villages where this has happened, and we have a very strong adolescent program, where 70,000 girls and 40,000 women are participating. Every panchayat has a charter, adolescent and young women's charter, which they have put up. So there is an awareness. I mean, if you go to Chandrapur today, the sex ratio is reversed. It started improving huge gains over a period of 8 years. So those changes will take place. You need to give time, but you have to be continuously at work. It's not a one-time activity. Various options. This is a foundation module. Now, after this, 3 months later, you can go back, use the same data, develop a village education plan. More, just focus on education. How do we improve it? You go health and nutrition plan. You can do a livelihood plan because the community is mobilized. I mean, there are many villages where in Maharashtra you have this Ganesh Puja. It's a huge thing. Because of fights within youth, you will have 5 pandals in one village and each one separately. All that changed. They all decided they'll have only one pandal. Things like that started happening. What I feel is, initially the sarpanchas and the mukhyas feel threatened, but they realize later that there is no other way. They have to pass. And that's why you see a change in that particular village. Youth took over the panchayat. At least 60% of facilitators are women, and they all come from backward.
Sir, I have a question for you. Sir, if we consider India, so many people don't even meet their daily needs. So in that case, how do we ask them to adopt a sustainable lifestyle? Because their survival is at stake. So once the survival is at stake, one doesn't care about sustainability. In the Western world, sustainability is more of a social issue. Okay, or you can say it's more about safety. If we consider Maslow's need hierarchy, it comes at a safety to social level. But in India, like
Yes, the base.
yeah, our base needs are not met. So how do we bring in sustainability right into the young children?
Main problem is the nutrition. After nutrition comes the malnutrition.
Yeah.
You see, malnutrition, when we talk of malnutrition, there is a fallacy. We always equate malnutrition to food. Malnutrition has very little to do with food. It's caring practices. How you bring up a baby. As I told you, it's between the 6th and the 14th month that the child drops into malnutrition. Malnutrition is in your family, in my family. When you're talking about 37% children malnourished, it's not just poor. We also have these practices in our own families. We give, at 6 months, we give them some people call it Mukhir bath, the first rice giving ceremony. After that, we neglect. Because it's very difficult, especially if the mother is working. The child doesn't get, the child requires little quantity of food frequently, at least 8 to 10 times a day. That's never gone. And then when child cries, put her on the breast, all senses, you feel that the child is drunk enough. The other thing is the easiest thing, because feeding is difficult. Buy a tin of lactation. You pay 250. It says 6 teaspoons for so much. You just put 2 teaspoons because you want the tin to last. So you're feeding water. Many things. The bottle is the biggest baby killer. You don't sterilize the bottle. Go to poorer families. It's lying on the floor. It's full of bacteria. So, for me, the question that you asked, when you're looking at sustainable development, I think it is easier for them to do it that way. because they are part of the environment, closer to the environment. Yes, food is important. It's how we have various schemes. The Antyodaya scheme, the BPL family is dead. The problem is, I had I had a 42 IAS probationers from Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy coming to, they stayed in these villages in Chandrapur. Their biggest question is, the poorest families don't have a BPL card. It's with the sarpanch's families, relatives. So they have no voice, no choice. So how do you make these changes and get them? Ultimately we are looking at a quality of life. It's not the status in terms of, yes, everyone has to progress economically as well. But we need to create those kind of systems. Today we are talking about bio-agriculture. So many models are evolving with good productivity. How do we take it down to those places? Get things moving. I think these are the challenges.
I have something on similar lines to this point. So, see, it is a problem of the sex ratio, at least in urban and semi-urban areas. We need more of economic concern rather than social one. Say, families in urban areas or semi-urban areas, they may care more about the ROI. They treat like when a girl child is born and a male child is born, they treat that okay, if a male child is born, then we'll get ROI. But for girls, we need to spend and we won't get it back. Isn't that the mentality which these people have?
See, girl generally is looked at as pariah. It's not my daughter, but she's somebody else's property. That's the way we look at it. And that has to change. That's where the equality, the whole concept of rights, girl child has the same rights as a boy child. We need to, that dialogue has to take place. And that's not happening. Look at the cow panchayats in Haryana. So scary.
My point is, when many of these things are interlinked, say dowry.
Yes, it is.
So when these are interlinked, how can you just change one thing when other things are not changing? Because all of them together have to change.
It's true. When we talk about this, we're not just talking about the culture, right? We're also talking about dowry. Is that a valid thing? Do we accept it? Should we continue with this practice? How many families going to death because of dowries? Yeah. You sit with girls and discuss this, you will see everyone crying. It's so emotional about it. And that's what ultimately leads them into action. Individually, they are lost. They can't do it. But when 12 girls come together, 20 girls come together, they change. Girls have stopped underage marriages. Girls have stopped dowry systems. Refused. That power comes not within one day, over a period of 5 years, 10 years, depends. I have a chart actually. When you go for this right-based programming, process-based programming, your gains will be very low in the first years. But once community is ready, it takes off. So in 3 to 4 years, that community will be empowered. Yeah, it's not a scale, it's just a, and there's one more back. Yeah, what happens in this process is, initially the process, 5-day process actually mobilizes community and provides a lot of knowledge. It also starts building the capacity of the communities. And this linking communities and functionaries, because in the microplanning process, all the functionaries by government orders participate, and community works with them. So they are also a party to the exercises. The next stage is where we are building the capacity of and strengthening the partnership of the functionaries with the government, and then establishing joint monitoring system. Stage 4. Finally, current government programs get aligned. What are the needs? BDOs get into action, CEOs get into action. So how do we tailor NRHM to the needs? How do we do the VHMD better on the government side with the community, joint plan? And finally, the change that's taking place from planning itself changes. It's not a top-down. Today, what happens? End of March, everyone prepares a budget. Same hits, 10% more. It's passed, the assembly comes back. I mean, this whole concept of decentralized governance is top bottom. That's what the manual is brought out for. So people are experimenting, but no one is coming together. It takes time. And we don't have enough people on the ground to do a process like this. We have 5 lakh odd villages. It's huge.
So just building on this from last point, you say we don't have enough people. So generally here there is a stark dichotomy between the idea of India and the idea of Bharat. And my question would be to how to get more people from urban youth rather than the urban communities to be involved in this process, and what is the way ahead or even model for that?
Yeah, this is where I think we all need to step back and reflect on what has happened in the last 7 years. Why have things gone wrong? We forgot the human being. When you give a man a fish, he lives for a day. Teach him how to fish, he lives for a lifetime. Simple. We didn't do that. So how do we? Today the corporates, CSO is a big, CSR is a big activity, huge amounts. Again, they go after targets. It's publicity, photographs, journals coming. How do we change mindsets at our level? That's not what development is. I think that change has to come, and that's where I think I was at one slide. What can we do? First of all, be aware what are the government is. It's no more a secret. Children are dying for no fault of this. We're not addressing it. You talked about the doctors doing abortion. I mean, these are all, the value changes have to take place. Secondly, can we expose ourselves with good working people in the field, attach ourselves with the product? Can we give 3 hours or 4 hours a week? You have expertise. They don't have it. Whether it's showcasing their work, publishing something, doing a monitoring system for them. 3 to 4 hours. Then how do you promote these languages that you are doing? So next, how do you get rural youth to come together? Look at these issues. I think a lot can be done. And then how do we be their advocates? We are all going to be in good positions of power. How do we become their advocates? I don't know. XLRI has 2 or 3 day exposure to it as part of your course.
Yes.
How are we using it? Is it a one-time activity that becomes a full stop after that? How are we looking at our role as citizens? Our obligations, our responsibilities? These are questions actually which we need to answer.
Hello, sir. So we spoke about sustainability in India, considering the situation of India being different from a developed world, because our requirements are not are basic, more basic than the requirements in the developed world. So considering that, What do you think education, how does education play into this? Especially education of girl child, considering the social problems that girl child face. And this is from a point of view of schools as well as how we can educate our children ourselves in our homes. So how do you think that plays out?
It's a big challenge, the question of education. She has been working, we have been working together from 92 to 98, and I was in Bihar, on Bihar Education Project. It's, we say that education has to be context specific. Yesterday she was telling me about the books that are being used. Nothing to do, a child is totally new to it, these kind of concepts. So how do we, there are simple ways of educating a child using even in which the child is, especially in the early stages. But what is primary education? Primary education is defined as learning to learn. How do you create those skills in a child of questioning, of discovering, supporting? A nature walk for a child could be so exciting. So much the child learns. Whether it's shapes, whether it's words, any concept can be taught through nature and various methods. We don't use them. We don't take a textbook which is created by NCERT. SCRT modifies it a little, and the child has to learn about Tendulkar or somebody else. But we have great fight because we have a curriculum development committee and a textbook writers committee groups in the states. You just can't get through that barrier unless, again, we have to create a groundswell on some of these things. When you talk about gender, I think primary classes from their gender equity should start. You can teach values there, so that a child, when it grows up, it doesn't look at a girl differently, or a girl doesn't look at a boy with different rights. They don't need. So we need to create those kind of processes.
I think the good question.
Any questions about
So I just have a basic one that whenever I went into studies, there are a lot of engineering. Everyone has their own agenda, set of each agenda. When I talk to them, they want to go back to the some people want to come. So there's always a confusion. We are trying to impose our thoughts on them, and when they go there, we correct it. So, is it possible that all the NGOs come together and then with so we have government in place for all the structures. Can we have a socialist structure in place where all the NGOs are combined and then there are different departments that are, like health, education and such. But are we trying to impose our thoughts on them? It is possible that we have people who really don't want to, come up to the stage that we are.
Yeah, the problem with NGOs is most of the NGOs which are good and are driven by one individual who has a passion, and they become father figures for the institution, and that tradition continues. And what happens is, if I am running an NGO, I can't agree with you because I might lose my position. So bringing them together as a network, many people have tried, they break up after a few years. Because people are strong individuals and their philosophy is different. Bringing them together becomes very tough. And that's where I think I look at an intermediary youth. A network of youth in the district can be formed. We need to work on it. We need partners to work with this. But then give them the right kind of influence. I was talking to you about the 5,000 youth over a period of time through various exposures. And it doesn't cost that much of money. A 5-day program for youth in the village will cost you about 40,000. and what they go back and do in their village, the outcomes to parents. So these kind of things, how do we, when we need to move away from the concept that development is materials, infrastructure. We need to focus on human beings. That's where development is.
Sorry, I don't know her name.
Not
The second point of your question, I'd like to disagree a bit in the sense that they may not want it. As you said, it's always possible that they may not want it, but it's also possible that I got your point. You are saying that few of the things which we think are correct, they may not like it, and they may not want it. So it is always possible that because they are not aware of certain things and they think that certain practices are correct, they may not accept the change, even though it is say more sustainable or something of the sort. I'll give a radical example, maybe not contextual. Say sati, for example. So who are following that, they may think that that is a good one, and we don't want to change it. Even when we go to them and try to explain or saying it's a wrong practice, they may not agree with us. So we can't stop it just because they're asking us.
So sati as a tradition started because the wives and the women used to be raped after the empire was formed. So that was the context of sati, and I would say as a woman, if I would have been, at that point of time, I would have done that. But now, obviously, we can't do that. So this is how evolution comes about. What I was talking about needs and want is that there are certain things that we need to change. Obviously, we can't go ahead with sati or female protocol, things like that. And obviously, health sector. But there are certain things that I think are actually destroying the tradition. So that was my point. So needs and wants in terms of, there's always a greed of more and more, but where to stop? So are we trying to impose that? Are we trying to bring commercialize in a way and then, that is the confusion.
Let's have this discussion after.
Yeah, it's a question of, I was asked this question by an activist working with tribal population. Why are you worried about I am worried? Community is not. For them, it's a way of life. They accept it. My answer was, we have a constitution which says that no child should die. So, if we are part of India, we need to follow what is written till it changes. If it says children can die, it's fine. So,
in our constitution also there's a law which says that if your religion, so there was a case in which a certain religion doesn't permit you to use the blood of some other religion, and our constitution states that it is my right whatever happens to my body. So the medical community was like, I have to save him, and that guy is like, no, if he is not from my religion, I can't take his blood, and that is what law is silent about.
it takes time. I mean, there will be mishaps. But I think we need to continuously dialogue these issues. It's not pushing it. So till that awareness comes that this is not right, change will take time. But there must be a critical mass of people talking about it. Then it happens. Today we hear only about GST, demonetization. We don't talk about these things. That's the issue. Thank you very much.
Various issues and discussing how we need to count on our people and bring that in the development process and partner with them. Shubhra ma'am, I would request you Shubhra ma'am is from NGO Seeds to present you the of conversation with Sir.
Thank you very much.
Also,
Can I give this to you?
So guys, after this session, we'll have a 10-minute break and then we'll start with the next session.